All right, today we're going to be talking about graphing inequalities. So we're going to graph inequalities on a coordinate plane with two variables, with an x and a y. This is very similar to our graphing equations that we did a couple chapters ago. But there's, of course, with inequalities, there's always one little extra bit that they need you to do. So let's talk about what an inequality graph looks like. So an inequality graph looks like half a plane is what it's called. We have a boundary line, a line that we graph just like we do for y equals. But now we also have to do some shading, and that shading is considered a half a plane. A plane is a flat surface, so when we graph a line, that line goes up through the plane. So half that plane is either going to be greater than the line or less than the line. And depending upon what the inequality is, the shading side is the one that we want that is true, all of our true answers. So if it says y is greater than, we're talking about the parts that are above that line. If we're talking about y is less than, then it's the parts below the line. And those are the ones that we want to go ahead and shade. Now our boundary line is important also. We can have a solid line like this one, or we can have a dotted line. Both are valid responses. If it's less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, we do the solid line. If it's just less than or greater than without the equal tos, those are dotted lines. So how do we figure out this extra spot? Well, we're going to do that by picking a point and testing a point and testing to see if that's a true. If it's true, we shade that side. If it's false, then we shade the other side. All right, let me show you how this works. All right, so let's graph y is greater than negative 2x minus 2. I don't know why there's a question mark there. So we're going to start with just graphing it as if it was an equals. So we start with our b value, this minus 2. So here's my origin, and a minus 2 means we go down 2 spots. Make my first dot. And then my slope is here. Remember, we got to write it over 1 if it's just a integer. So it's negative 2 over 1. So that means I go down 2 and over 1 for my next dot. And now I get this wonderful line. Now, eventually I'm going to make it dotted because it's a greater than sign. It doesn't have the equals to underneath. So this will end up being dotted on my next slide. But I want to pick a point. Now, the easiest point to pick is 0, 0, the origin. I can't always pick 0, 0. I can pick any point I want, just as long as it's on one side or the other. I can't pick this point that's right on the line. So 0, 0 is an easy one to go ahead and use, so I can go ahead and do that. Other people like to put 1, 1 from up here. That's fine. It doesn't matter. And what I'm going to do with this 0, 0 is I'm going to put it in for my x and my y. Just like what we did with trying to find our b value. Remember, we substituted in an x and a y. We're going to do the same thing. So y is 0, x is 0. So negative 2 times 0 minus 2. And just let's simplify this. Negative 2 times 0, I got to do that first. Multiplication first is 0. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And I need to find out, is 0 greater than negative 2? Well, that's true. So that means this point right here is true. That also means all the other points that are on this side of the line are also true. So these are all the true points, and these are all the false points. Well, we're going to shade the true side. So I'll show you that on the other slide in just a moment. But also greater than. Where are all the points that are above the line? So above the line would be all over here. A greater than is always above the line. Less than would always be below the line. So let's look at this actual answer. So here's the actual answer. Again, it went through 2, went down 2 and over 1. It's just a little bit off the graph here. Again, it's dotted, and it's all those points. It's the 0, 0 point. That whole side gets shaded. If it's true, we shade that side. If it's false, we shade the other side, right? So that's always what we're going to go ahead and do. And so this is what our graph should go ahead and look like. Let's try another one. Remember, sometimes we get ones that are in standard form, and we got to solve for y. We've done some of these before. So I got to take the x and move it over. Now remember, when I move it over, I've got to change its sign. So from negative 4x, it becomes positive 4x. So we're going to move that negative 4x over, so we're going to add positive 4x. So it's 2y is greater than 4x plus 6. And then I got to divide by whatever's in front of the y here. So I'm going to divide by 2. And I divide everything by 2. So 4 divided by 2 and 6 divided by 2. So I get y is greater than 2x plus 3. All right, now I'm going to graph that. So where am I going to start? I'm going to start at this plus 3. So here's my origin. I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. That's my first dot. And then my slope here is 2 over 1. So from this dot, I go up 2 and over 1, up 2 and over 1. Again, it's a greater than, so we have a dotted line again. Then I'm going to test a point. I'm going to try 0, 0 again. If you don't want to, greater than would be all the points that are above. So this side should be all the points that are above the line. But let's try 0, 0. If this is the parts that are above and this should be the true side, this should give us a false answer. But let's try it. Let's put 0, 0 in. So I'm putting it into my equation. 0 is greater than 2 times 0 plus 3. Well, 2 times 0 plus 3 is just 3. 0 is greater than 3. That is false. So again, this is false, so I shade the other side. So this is the side over here that I have to go ahead and shade. So when I go ahead and make my line, notice I do the shading. If you have a different color or you just want to like fill it in, either one is fine. You can go ahead and do. And again, this is dotted. If you want to test another point just to make sure, let's go -3, -1, that's this point here. Or I'm sorry, -3, +1, that's this point here. This should be true. So they put -3 in for x and 1 in for y. And you get 1 is greater than -3, and let's see how that checks out. Any of these points over here will give you a true answer. Any of these points over here will give you a false answer. Let's look at one more, kind of looking at it a little bit backwards. No, this one, we need to work that one out. We got to move the 3x over and do a bunch of stuff. So let's just skip this one, sorry. This is the one I was talking about. Which one of these is this graph? Well, let's first take a look at what do we know? We've got a dotted line here. Well, what does that tell us? It tells us B can't be an answer and D can't be an answer because of those equal to signs. So it's either A or C. And now we're talking about, is it greater than or less than? Is this below the line or above the line? Above the line is greater than, below the line is less than. So if it's less than, it's got to be C. And that's what I have for you today.